Welcome back to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored. And today I'm very excited actually because I have a house full of teens downstairs to be joined by Tara, who is the Global Director of Policy at Instagram, leading on youth well-being. Welcome, Tara. We were just talking a little bit before, as you know, I've just landed back from the States, but so I'm catching up on my time and all of that. We were meant to have this amazing chat last week, so we're doing it from across the pond. But I actually have a house full of teens downstairs. I have three, so this is something that I find incredibly important, and I know so many mums out there will feel exactly the same way because with everything in the world of Instagram right now, how do you protect teenagers in this world where they are, a click of a button connected away from anybody?
Yeah. So first of all, more power to you that you are a mum to three teenagers. I'm a mum to two teenagers. Well, just a 15-year-old and my son literally turned 13 about a week ago. So I will be asking you for advice and recommendations because I think your children are a little bit older.
I have two 15 actually and one
Yes, it's
19, so we're kind of at the
so
same
you've been
stage.
through it to some extent, and
Yes.
I think that's one of the most important things is mums being able to talk to mums about what their experience is of raising our digital natives. So, yeah, just to jump in, so on the Instagram side, we've been working on issues around teen well-being and keeping young people safe who are using our platform. It's always been a top priority for us. But what's really changed in the last, I'd say, couple of years is we've gone out and had very intentional conversations with parents. So, and I think this is really important, is that, parents are increasingly involved in their young people's lives, and I think all us mums feel that way, but also there's just so much going on, and sometimes it can feel like there's a burden because you're trying to work out, what are the parental settings on YouTube or on Instagram or on TikTok or on Snap, and what's the age that my young person shouldn't be when they're using social media. I just think it kind of comes at you from all directions. So what we've done is gone out and had deep conversations with parents and asked them what are the things that they really genuinely at the heart of it worry about when their teen is using Instagram. And they came back with three things. They said they worry about who can message them, so what contact they can have, exactly to your point about they're out there, who can be in touch with them. So that's definitely a parental concern across the globe. The second thing is, what is the content that they're seeing? Is it appropriate for their age? If I have a 14-year-old, is it okay for them to see certain content versus my 17-year-old or my 18-year-old? And then the third thing parents talked to us about was the time their teens are spending on the phone, not even like on social media particularly, but just the phone. Is 20 minutes okay? Is 2 hours too much? And you can't go to your GP or your doctor and ask that question because it's not something that people are able to give advice about. So they were the three things that came into us through surveys, research, face-to-face conversations we had with parents. And so what we did was we built what's called teen accounts on Instagram. And teen accounts on Instagram do two things. They put teens who are under the age of 18, no matter where they are in the world, into our most protective settings. And they also give a bit of power, I suppose, back to the parent, because if the teen wants to change any of those most protective settings that we automatically default and place them into, if they want to change any of those settings, they have to get, and they're under the age of 16, they have to get their parent to approve that in the app. So just to bring it to life a bit, is a private account. So if a teenager joins Instagram now, they're under the age of 18, or a teen who's already been on Instagram, we have just automatically placed them into the teen account experience. And that means that if they are under the age of 18, their account is made a private account.
Oh, that's automatic across the board now
That's automatic across the board. Yeah.
until they're 18.
Until
Okay.
they're 18.
Because actually,
Yeah.
we actually made their Instagram private anyway, so that we actually had to accept every single friend they made.
Yes.
I don't think that was, this is a new policy now.
This is new. So what we had before was anyone in certain countries for quite some time, but globally we've had private by default for quite some time if a teen is under the age of 18. But what was different was that the teen could change it to a public account if they wish to do so. And look, there's lots of reasons why some teens might want to do that. They might be creators, they might want to connect with a community, which is fine. But what we found was actually if they're under the age of 16, they're that younger teen group, and I think parents really spoke to us about the differentiation between younger teens and older teens. So if they're in that younger teen group, they're under the age of 16, they have a private account by default when they join Instagram. They can't change that unless they get their parents to approve that.
Okay.
What we really hope that does is it creates a moment that the parent and the teen can have that conversation. So from the sounds of it, Caroline, you've been having these conversations with your teens. But if the parent hasn't been having these conversations, it kind of creates that moment where the teen, will try to toggle to a private account and they'll get a pop-up on Instagram to say, hey, you can't change the setting without parental approval. And then it gives the teen very, very simple instructions as to how to set up their parent in the supervisory tool, and therefore then the parent can then get a notification to say, hey, your teen wants to change into a public account. Will you approve that? And what we really hope is that then precipitates a conversation offline with the parent and the teen as to why they want a public account and what it means to have a public account versus a private account. And as you say, if you have a private account, then you can't be contacted by anyone who doesn't already connect with you. You have to approve who can contact you. You have to approve who follows you. So there's a lot of protections if having a private account. Now, we go further. So we also, within the teen account settings, private accounts, no one can message you that you're not already connected with. And we give you what's called a sensitive content control. So it means that you, as a teen, will not see content that's inappropriate for you if you're under the age of 18. We set that to the most restrictive setting.
Well, I think, look, I have a different problem. Obviously, I'm a public figure.
Yes.
So for me, it's an easier conversation with my kids. My kids actually didn't particularly want to be on Instagram because of my public profile.
Yes.
So, and I don't know about you, but any mother I know with children of that age, they hate being posted. They don't really enjoy the public sort of profile it has. Yes. And how other people, mums sort of posting their kids and getting, sending pictures to the like family page and making it very public of them, and they get embarrassed. So a lot of teenagers actually, it helps in that respect. They don't want to be so far out. But you're right. I think when it gets difficult, so my boys specifically won't let me post them. They're not interested. Yeah. They can't bear it. They don't want the comments. So that's really helped. I think because there's been so much negativity with shows and being public, they kind of decided to pull back themselves. I think the adult side of it, the adult content, obviously you've got things like OnlyFans and all of these kind of things, or things that they can type in a word now and something other than what they were looking for might or might not come up. I think that's very valuable. And also with people targeting, maybe famous people's children as well, or being able to look up somebody's children and contact them. That's very, very frightening. So all of these things are so important to parents today. I mean, it's something that, my daughter, again, she is somebody that now at university wants to be on. You can have those conversations at 12, 13. When they get to 16 to 18, it's a little harder.
It is. It's much harder. And I think what you said about your younger teens, your twin boys, it really resonates. I think teens nowadays use social media, and you'll be so familiar with it because you're a public figure and because you have teen boys. I think they use social media in very different ways to how some adults might think they use it. So yeah. You're right, so many teens actually they don't post very much. they really value their privacy, and we've heard that from them. They don't want to be contacted by people that they don't know. And they're not necessarily of that kind of selfie generation. It's probably more my generation, to be honest with you. So they do use Instagram in very different ways. And what we've tried to do then with teen accounts is to kind of speak to where they are, which is the private account by default. You know, make sure that that's automatically on if you're a teen. We also turn on tools like hidden words. I don't know if you use it yourself, but it's a wonderful tool, which is it was designed to begin with for public figures, for creators, for athletes. Excuse me, which is there are words that there are words that they might not be policy violating. So obviously we don't allow certain words on the platform anyway, particularly in any kind of bullying and harassment kind of a way. But there might be a word that's particularly triggering for you. So we build a list, which are the list of words that we think, and working with public figures, working with non-profit organizations, we know these are words that are associated with bullying and harassment, and we put them into a hidden list that's turned on. So if you have it turned on, which we now turn it on for all under 18s on Instagram, they won't see those words in their comments or tags and things like that. We've gone a step further though, so if you want to, you can actually add additional words to that list. So if there's something that's particularly triggering for you and you do not want to see that in your comment, you can add that to the hidden words list. But it's things like that to really speak to teens where they are, because they want to be able to have, they love to DM their friends, they love to connect using social media, but they don't necessarily want to post on social media. That's different across the world and in different markets, but I think your son's experience actually is quite a normal one.
Yeah, I think there's also I mean I get more worried about these. I remember when TikTok launched and things like that, and they had all the TikTok challenges and they sort of sent them out to the kids. Those kind of things sort of bothered me more. I feel safer about Instagram actually than I did that kind of a platform where they sort of had more of this sort of culture of daring the children to join these things and making them do these things en masse. I don't feel that Instagram, out of all of them, weirdly, I mean, Facebook, again, it's something I don't think my kids don't use Facebook as such I think that's again more of our generation. Instagram, my daughter, I think they use Snapchat sometimes to but out of all of the platforms, I feel Instagram has the safest sort of connotation, and it also feels like the cleanest, as it were.
I'm really glad that you feel that way, and it sounds like very extremely authentic, and that really is why we build all of the tools, and it's really why we've built teen accounts, because we as a platform, as a place where young people come, as well as not just also adults. First and foremost, we want them to feel safe, and we want their parents to feel that their young person is going to be safe when they're using Instagram. And also that, taking the burden off them, because I think for a long time platforms, had been building parental controls or had been building, safety settings. But I think it was just too much for parents. Parents didn't, they're so busy in their lives with schools and hobbies and, work and all of those things that it felt too much. So what we've done with it is by creating teen accounts, we've done it all automatically. So the parent knows that behind the scenes, when their teen is under the age of 18, this is the experience they have when they're on Instagram. And if they want to change that experience, that's fine. But they, the parent, if the teen is under the age of 16, they, the parent, have to be in that conversation. And that's, we really hope it either, brings those conversations to the kind of kitchen table, or that the teens just stay in the teen account settings. We launched this about 6 months ago now, and one of the things that we have learned from it, well, two things. One is we now have well over 50 million teens in the teen account experience, and that's growing because we're rolling out in India and Japan, some of these really big markets, which is great. The other thing we've seen is that 97% of the teens who we placed into the most restrictive settings have stayed in them. Those who are under the age of 16 have stayed in the most restrictive settings. So that tells us that we think teens actually really do appreciate it, and that they do want to be in the most protective settings. When we talk to teens, we talk about them as protective settings because teens like to think that they're being protected. They don't like to think that they're being restricted. So we do try to speak the language of teens on the platform as well. But I think it's really good that we see that 97% are staying in those most restrictive settings.
Maybe it's something they forget about after a while.
Yeah,
I mean, is
absolutely, yeah.
there other alerts if they sort of try and override them to the parent, letting them know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a few things. If the teen tries to change any of those settings, the parent does get an alert, or the teen isn't allowed to do so. They have to set up parental supervision, and then the parent gets the alert. So that happens through teen accounts. We also do a few other things. So knowing and understanding the age of a teen is hard. It's difficult, particularly some teens might not be fully truthful about their age when they first join Instagram. So you're supposed to be 13 and above to have an Instagram account. So what we've done a few things. One is if a teenager is under the age of 18 and they try to change their date of birth to over the age of 18, we actually send them through an age assurance process, and it's a video selfie process which teens really appreciate actually. So they have to do an upload of their face. It's through another company called Yoti. It's not actually a Meta service.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very privacy protective, and that can tell very, very accurately the age of the teen. So if the technology doesn't think that the teen is actually over the age of 18, they won't be able to change their account to an account of an over 18-year-old. And then the other thing we're testing at the moment in the US is AI technology. It's pretty much age prediction technology, which is that if a teen has told us in the past that they told us they're 22, but actually they might be 14 or 15. Okay, so we want to know and understand their real age on Instagram because we want to put them into the teen account experience and make sure that they're in these most protective settings. So we're testing technology which looks for certain signals. So the technology will look at things like their profile picture. So you've told us you're 22, but your profile picture is telling us that maybe you're a different age. And then we'll build up those signals. So if all of your followers are 15-year-olds, the chances are you're probably 15. Or if people have all wished you a happy 16th birthday, the chances are you're probably 16 and not 22. And so what we're going to do in those circumstances, once we're sure, and we do have to have very high accuracy, we're going to move those teens into our most protective settings. Again, just taking a precautionary principle, but it's very, very innovative technology. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to launch it the rest of the world after we've done these initial tests in the US.
I mean, obviously, teenagers are an incredibly hard age for any parent. I defy any mother to say that this is the favorite part of bringing up children because, I don't know about you, but I sort of get my son likes to live in a very dark room and I have to push his food through the door and then it gets slammed back. So, to then control, and a lot of times, by the way, I feel, especially with boys, it's a time where it's quite confusing for them. So after COVID, I feel that a lot of their friendships were made online. Yeah. A lot of their life is online. I'm caught between, obviously, I would love my children to be these children that went out, played music and, played football every day for hours and hours. But that's just not what happens, right? And my sons go to school, they go to football, they're very, very alert. They've got a lot of friends, they go to training. But then, they are, one of my sons particularly, he's a gamer. He loves it, absolutely loves it. So I do get, yeah, and I do get a lot of pushback. I was going to do that. Is it Life 360 or something? Where they turn off, exactly. I'm sure you know that, where you turn off all the devices in your in your house. Yeah. And at some point though, you have to have this sort of give and take with them. So how do you sort of decide? I mean, how do you do it for your teens? How long is too long? I mean, if their schoolwork's being done, they're going to football, they've got friends. Like, how long do you think? 2 hours a day isn't going to cut it for my son. I mean, he'll scream the house down, or he just
Yeah.
won't be here.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think that's the first thing I'd say is, and you as the parent, as the mom, you know your teenager better than anyone else. And I think there can be kind of peer pressure and judgment, which I think really does not help as like a community of moms, because some teens, as you say, they might be gaming and they might be getting a huge amount out of it. They might be on Instagram for 40 minutes because they are chatting to their friends, they're sharing really funny and amusing things. They might be doing a school project. They might be looking for, like David Attenborough content because
Okay, I
they're
don't
doing
think they're doing
climate
that.
change. Like there's so many reasons. There's, a million reasons why people are using, or teens are using
But
social media.
we love to scroll. I love to scroll. They
It's
see me
relaxing sometimes,
scrolling.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
sometimes I do feel also like, there has to be in a sort of level of, as they grow up, letting them see some of the things they're going to be faced with as well. Because if all the other platforms aren't having the same policy you are, how are we teaching them in between, or having the conversations that this is going on? Because if we're limiting them here, how are we stopping them there? It's like it's such a minefield.
It is a mine. It really is a minefield. So with teen accounts on Instagram, we have tried to tackle some of those time management issues. So and look, it's not going to be perfect, right? But with teen accounts, we've set the daily limit reminder to 60 minutes. But one of the things that we've gone again a step further with that is based on expert advice. So the amount of time that your teen spends on social media is, as I said, it depends on the teen, right? It depends on what they're doing. But what there is lots more proof around is, or research around, is the importance of sleep. And so actually getting sleep and like turning the phones off at night and making sure that they're not looking at their phones at night. And this honestly is something that really does worry me, because with my 15-year-old daughter, we had a kind of no phones in the bedroom policy for a few years, and that was great, and I felt like, wonderful, brilliant. But then, of course, she's got a bit older now, and she loves podcasts, right? She loves podcasts, and I think they're brilliant. And so she says, is it okay to have my phone in my room in the evening because I love to listen to podcasts? And I said, of course you can. So what we've done with teen accounts is we've set what's called the sleep mode, which I really do love, which is sleep mode is turned on between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Again, automatically for every teen under the age of 18, it's automatically turned on.
But do you believe her quickly?
Sorry?
Do you believe her?
I to some extent, and this is the trust thing, isn't it? Because I want to believe her, but I do go up and I'm looking and I spy. I mean, don't parents spy? We spy. Right? So
my sons lie to me all the time about it.
Yeah.
I give them the trust. I say, go for it again. Okay, exactly like you, because I also like music to play for them so they sleep sometimes,
Yeah.
or, but then I just realize that they're just manipulating me to get another hour with the phone. Yeah. So, it's a really difficult one.
It's really hard. So for those instances, and I feel it, I absolutely feel the pain, is with sleep mode, it's no notifications between 10 and 7 a.m. But then we've got a step further. So if you set up parental supervision on Instagram, it's really easy to do. So for your listeners, go into settings and look at parental supervision. Very easy to set up. And then if you go into parental supervision, you can actually block your teen on Instagram for the whole night if you wish to. So that means it's not a reminder. It's not, on your phone, I give myself, a time limit on my phone, right? But then I just click through it. I don't know if other people do. Give myself 15 extra minutes, give myself 30 extra minutes. With sleep mode on Instagram, the parent can just completely block it. So the teen can't ask for an extra 15 minutes. It's just totally blocked. And that's if the parent sets up the parental supervision tool on Instagram. So I would really encourage parents, if you, particularly for the younger teen group, when you, as I said, and also for parents out there, invoke Instagram. You can blame us. That's absolutely fine. You can say, look, I'd be okay with it, but Instagram doesn't, it's turned off between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And then you can go into the background and do that and make sure that your team won't know that you've just completely blocked them from that particular period. It might be during school. You might say, actually, during school I'm just going to block Instagram and you're just not going to get it. But hopefully it's kind of part of a continual conversation with your teen. But it's the time management one is really, really hard.
And just the safety aspect again, just
Yeah.
if I'm an adult and I seek out somebody's child, then there is no way I can contact them,
No, no, it's a great question.
or you can't see them.
So it's a really, really important question. So yeah, in teen accounts, you cannot, if you're an adult, you have an adult account, you cannot message or tag, so you can't DM, you cannot tag a teenager that you're not already connected with or following. So that means that, teenagers, of course, if it's an aunt or an uncle or whatever, they could try to connect and the teen might want to connect to them. But if they're a stranger, they cannot they cannot follow a teenager unless it's reciprocal, right? So unless the teen follows them back or is connected to them in maybe in another way. So it's really, really important because parents, I think, want to have that peace of mind that their teen cannot be connected with someone or contacted by someone random. And again, the teen doesn't want to either, right? They want to talk to their friends when they're on Instagram. They want to DM their friends. They don't want to be DMing people that they don't know. And we definitely see that behaviour on Instagram. And teens are also able, you can block people on Instagram. They don't know that they've been blocked. And we send information as well to teens if they do block someone on Instagram. So they might have followed them. They might not want to follow them anymore. They can block them. And then we also send them resources to say, hey, do you want to report this account? You've blocked them. Do you want to go a step forward and report them? And it's autonomous. No one's going to know you've done it. Or, do you want to reach out to someone? So we give them some advice if they do get down the road where actually they're connected to someone they don't know and they don't want to be connected to anymore. They can block, they can report, they can look for help and resources.
I mean, again, it's such a fine line by giving them sort of, the responsibility of learning how to use something like, obviously Instagram in a grown-up way, and learning how to navigate what's going to come at you in a very daily life anyway. So I think, having the fact that it's actually forcing you to have these conversations, but at the same time is teaching them everyday life, because, you need to teach them how to avoid talking to people that they don't know in real life. The world is a very strange place at the moment. And the fact these, platforms has made everyone one click away from each other. You hear these awful stories about people traveling all over the world to meet people. And, it's terrifying to think that your child is so close to anyone. So I'm, a big advocate of this. I think, it's just trying to keep them in till they're 18, because essentially 16 to 18 is even harder, right? I mean, everybody's itching to get out of the house.
And they're at that point in their lives when they are, they want to experience more, and I think,
and they know everything. They know everything.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't know anything as a parent. No, you're an idiot. They're digital natives, aren't they? So I think it is really important that I think that we don't kind of turn back the clock, right? They have their phone. Their phone is an extraordinary resource for them. Social media is, can be wonderful and fun and joyful, but they have to use it in a really, really careful and responsible way. So one of the things we've also done is we have a family centre. So it's like the Meta Family Centre. It's really easy to find. Like Google Meta Family Centre or meta.familycentre or familycentre.meta.com. And there are loads and loads of resources there for parents, really directed at parents, to help them have the conversation with their teen. Because what you don't really want is that your teen has a bad experience and then comes to you, right? That's kind of the worst case scenario. What you actually want is to have the conversation with the teenager when they're just beginning to, or just probably before they start using social media, to set the ground rules. And again, on Instagram, what we want to do is be able to tell parents, look, when your teen does use Instagram for the first time, they're 13, know that we put them in the most protected experiences. Know that we put them in a private account. And know that you will be part of the conversation or the decision-making process if they're a younger teen if they want to change any of those. I think it gives parents some, I hope it gives parents some reassurance. But, they are digital natives, and they're out there and they're using other platforms, right? So they're using the internet, they're using search engines. So you can't completely cocoon them. But I think arming yourself to some extent. And as I said, there's resources out there. We have them on the Family Centre. Really brilliant tips and tricks for how to have the conversation, when to have it. One of the things that I've really taken away with me was it's often much easier to have a chat with your teen when you're in the car. So
because they're trapped.
Because they're trapped. Because they're usually sitting next to you rather than kind of confrontationally in front of you. You can have the music on. You can kind of try. I tried to bring these things up, and my older child, my 15-year-old, she knows exactly what I'm doing, and she's like, "Oh, Mom, here we go again." Whereas my younger one, maybe less so. He's kind of less so. So he will actually get into the conversation, and they will often say to me, they'll often say, "Mom, that's not my experience. That's not what I've had." But I said, "But if it is, if you ever do come across something that makes you feel uncomfortable, it's okay to talk to me." And it's just really important that they know that, and that they're, they can kind of also say to their friends, like, I saw something. Did you see something? Actually, you should talk to your parents about it. Hopefully, it'll just give them a bit more confidence to be able to have those conversations with you as a parent.
I saw you're introducing it as well on Facebook, which is again,
Yes,
as
that's right.
at least it's broadening it, so it's going across for everyone. And I mean, how do you intend to do that with something like Facebook, because it's so big too?
Yeah, so both Facebook and Messenger, we're rolling out the teen accounts to both of those platforms as well. It's going really well. I think what we really learned when we rolled it out on Instagram is, technically it's a challenge, right? Because we've been just taking every teen that we know is under the age of 18 and placing them automatically into the teen account experience. So just technically behind the scenes, it's a huge, it's
a lot of very angry teenagers.
Well, so so some teenagers maybe are less happy about it. We have, look, that conversation went to the very top of the company, because a decision was made that we'd rather maybe take a hit, whether that's on Instagram or Facebook or Messenger, in the short term, but actually in the long term, we think that teens, they really do value their privacy, and they want to have this kind of experience. So actually, we hope that maybe some of them might be horrified to start with. I hope not. We hope not. And actually, the data about the 97% staying in the most protective experience gives us some hope that actually they do appreciate it, or they don't notice it. As you said, maybe they just don't notice, and you know what? That's fine.
I find, look, there's a lot of pushback at the beginning, and then they sort of give into it. Yes. And actually, we all have understood that teenagers actually enjoy structure in the end. And having, I live in the Middle East, so we follow all the rules. And actually, It's been something that people used to go to me, how can you live here? Well, I actually like the rules. Yeah. And I feel like something like this is very similar in a way, because you know what you can and cannot do. I do feel one of the biggest things teenagers have right now is online bullying. Yeah. And that comes from not only adults, it comes from their peers. The way they talk to each other sometimes, I can't believe, that they're even in the same class. So, and we all know, if you've got teenage children, one minute they love each other, then they all hate each other, then there's a gang of them. So, that kind of thing, are you able to combat that?
Yeah, it's a huge priority for us. Bullying and harassment, of course it happens offline as well. It happens offline, it happens online. Most of what we see on our platform, that also happens off the platform as well. But look, we've invested really, really heavily in this, and we've built a lot of tools. So, one of the things that we've looked at is we used to ask teens why they don't block a bully. Right, so because we had built all these tools, block the bully so that you can't see what the bully is saying about you, and etc. And actually, we got really great feedback directly from teens, which they said, look, if I am being bullied, I actually don't want to necessarily block the bully. I'm worried that the bully might know I've blocked them, so it's going to make things worse. Or I actually want to know what the bully is up to, right? Because actually, there's real power in knowing what the bully might be saying, so that when you go into school the next day, you're not in the dark. You know what the person has said about you. So we built a tool called Restrict, which is a really brilliant tool. And again, for your listeners, jump into the settings on Instagram and look at all of these tools. But Restrict is one of our most powerful tools and has been built with teens and for teens. So you can place someone into the Restrict feature. So you just, if somebody's bullying you and you don't like them, you don't like what they're saying about you, you put them into the Restrict tool. And it means that this individual who might be bullying you, they cannot tag you or mention you in any posts.
You
They
have that
think
for
they
adults
are.
too. I've seen it.
We
Yes.
do, yes. It's for adults can do it as well, and a lot of public figures
Yeah.
use it as well. So,
Yes.
and it really speaks to teens because they want to know what the bully is up to, but they want to restrict that bully from what they're saying and what they're posting about them.
Yeah. And it also means that, they can restrict what the bully sees on there. So they don't see the stories, and sometimes they can't comment, or they don't see your story so that you can see theirs, but they can't see you.
They can't comment, and they think they think they are. They think they're kind of. It's like they're shouting into a void, and you have placed them into restrict. You know that, so you know that the experience they're having is actually totally different from the experience they think they're having on the platform when it comes to you. So, and we get really, really great feedback from teens about it. It really has kind of put the power back in their hands when they might be victims of bullying. And again, we've loads of resources on the Family Centre for parents to have conversations with their teens if they have come across bullying content, because it's we don't want teens to be bullied while they're using Instagram, for sure. It can be really contextual. That's one of the problems that we have with it, because we've got really strict rules about what you can and can't say, and what you can and can't post, but sometimes it's contextual. So it's the word might not be violating, but actually to the person who's seeing it in the comments,
yeah,
it's horrible. Yeah.
I think the good thing about me, or doing what I do, being a housewife as well, and doing all of these kind of things, my kids have watched or seen everything being said about me, and the way I handle it, and I've just taught them it's sort of water off a duck's back. And I think that's important too. I think that's I'm of the ilk of not wrapping them completely in cotton wool, because there's only so long you can do that. And as you said, it happens offline as well as online. So we can point them in the right direction. We can only give them the tools, and at the same time we have to prepare them, because that's just life, unfortunately.
It is, unfortunately it is. And I think there's a real within on Instagram that lots of communities, and teens can often be like incredibly kind to each other and really supportive of each other when they're going through hard times and all of those all of those things. So I think they as a community, as a group, are, as I said, growing up in this space, and I think they want their parents to be able to give them the support as well, but also they have to go to school every day, and they have to do sports and live in the real world, as well as socialize often on social media. So we want to be able to give them all of the tools at their disposal when they are using social media, but you cannot completely conclude them, and that's partly why we've differentiate that younger and older teen grouping, because I think there is a lot of agreement that that younger teen group does need extra protection, and the parent wants to be a bit more involved. But when your teen gets to kind of 17, they're very different, aren't they? I mean, you said you've a daughter who's 19, so
they're mini humans. I mean, adults. Sorry, I can't tell her, how long she's going to spend on that. She's moved out anyway. She's gone to university, so that is what it is. And you do have to prepare them for the bullying, the sexual content, all of the things. I mean, because again, it can happen on the internet. So we're stuck. So you have to have so many different types of conversations. It's not even funny. But where do you think this is going then? How do you see it becoming a completely safe place? I find that so hard, because even with like AI coming and all of these, people are still having their identities. And I don't, look, I'm a huge fan of Instagram and all these platforms. I live on it. I spend so many hours on there. I'm probably your number one customer. So this is not coming from a, but I do feel that how on earth can we possibly say that we're going to make this, a completely safe
No,
space going
no.
forward? We can't, can
No,
we?
you can't. We can't. And listen, we can't. We will never be able to say we're 100% sure that your teenager or yourself will not see something that you wish you hadn't seen, right? But I think certainly with teen accounts, we have taken a huge leap
Mm.
in the
Which is
way that we have
fantastic.
protected and restricted. Yeah, and as I said, we're okay to take a hit because we think it's the right thing to do, and we think that teens really do appreciate it. I think that there's
Sorry, do
yes, go on.
parents do parents try and blame you guys if they do get the wrong content?
Yes, and that's fair. I
Right.
think, you as a parent want to feel good that your teen is using a platform and that they're seeing the type of age appropriate content. I do think there's far more focus on making sure that your teen is seeing the content that's right for their
But you
age.
get it on TV,
Um,
you get it everywhere. I mean, it's I
you
it
do,
yeah.
you do, and I think the parents want to know that like we're trying, we're doing
Yes.
everything at our disposal. We're using AI, we're using all the innovation. We've got, I think it's 40,000 people at Meta
Oh
who
wow.
work dedicated to kind of safety and integrity issues. So I think parents expect it, and they should expect that from us because their teenager is on our platform. We do really strive, and as I said, we'll never get to 100%, but I think the age appropriate content and that your teen is seeing content that we know and that is being recommended to them is the type of content that they should be seeing. And so again, with teen accounts, this sensitive content control is turned on. That means that any content that's like violating our policies, we would not, we find it, we remove it using AI. Then there's content that we wouldn't want to recommend to a teenager. The content might be okay, but it could be sexualized content. It could be. I give the example of the trailer for a movie like The Godfather,
Mm.
right? It's fine, okay, it's allowed, but it's probably an 18s plus, and so you don't want your 15-year-old necessarily coming across that. So we try to find content that is really what we call age gated, those who are under the age of 18, and we make sure that that is within our sensitive content filter. And then when your teen is on Instagram and they're under the age of 18, they know that they're placed into that most restrictive setting for sensitive content. I think there's another piece which is you asked like what's it going to look like in the future. I think knowing and understanding age is a really important one, and I mentioned the age prediction technology that we're testing in the US. The other thing we've been working on and calling for publicly is what we call app store level age verification. So when you buy your teen the phone, you as an iPhone or an Android phone, you buy the phone, you go to Vodafone or wherever you are in the world, and you're setting up their Apple account. You will give them, they ask for the date of birth, and what we think makes a lot of sense for parents is that then the app store provider, whoever that is, gives us as apps the signal of what the age is. So we run our own age modeling, so we know and understand the age of those who are using our platforms, and so we're really investing in that. But it would be an extra layer of kind of an umbrella above that, or an extra layer of protection that if we were getting signal from the app store to say, hey, this person has told us that they're 15, and then they join Instagram and they're telling us that they're 18 or 20, we can see that they're not matching.
Mm-hmm.
If the app store is telling us, yeah, the age is 15, and we can see that they've told us the age is 15, bingo, we've got the exact match. And we think that is a really, really easy and simple way for it, not just our apps, but any app that the parent knows that when their teenager is downloading an app, that age signal, just the signal, not the date of birth, just the signal is being shared. So again, you as a parent know, okay, I feel comfortable that my teen is only able to download apps that are age appropriate for them.
Well, I think you've just answered my last question, which was basically if there's one thing that a parent should know, what would it be for their teen? And it's probably the age appropriate
Yeah, look, it probably is. I think
limitation.
knowing and understand. Ask your teenager if they've given us their correct age when they joined Instagram, and it's please change, the age if it's older than they actually are, because we genuinely build our platform for the age that we know and we think you are. The other thing I would just say to parents is don't be too scared of it. Have those conversations with your teen. Just start to have the conversation. It will lead to like a positive conversation. It really, really will. I find with my girlfriends is some of them aren't on Instagram and they're not using Snap. They're not using TikTok and they're slightly terrified of it. Now, I think obviously very different in your circumstance, but some they don't know how to use it, or they only use it for their stuff, and so they really don't know what it must be like for a teenager to be using it. So not really able to have a good conversation with their teens. So I would say go to the family centre, just look at a few articles. They're really like, give yourself 15 minutes on a Friday morning with a cup of coffee, read a few articles about it, and just try to open some conversations with your teen. And make it just part of kind of daily life that you're having these conversations, because I think teens want it and appreciate it, and I think it'll make you as a parent feel a bit more comfortable as well.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's a amazing, great place to end the conversation, but that just to say to everybody out there, really, that's one thing I pride myself on with my children. Out of everything, they know they can come to me with anything. I've always kept a very open dialogue. I let them tell me anything with no judgment, and I think that is one thing that should be implemented into every house. And I would say to every parent, instead of coming down extremely hard, I would open up the communication, because it's better to know the worst than not know anything at all. And I see the difference in my children, because they can literally bring me anything and I never get upset if they've told me, ever. And that is an unwritten rule in my house. If you bring it to me, there will be no consequence for that, because I'm so happy they shared it with me, and I will help you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's so important that parents don't judge their teen if they come and tell them they've had a bad experience and seen something that they didn't want
know.
to see, or they've been contacted by someone that they didn't know.
Or they've got themselves into something they can't get out of, especially with online shaming. I think there's a lot of revenge porn that gets done at schools and things like this. So opening the dialogue, I would say, is one of the most important things you can do, because it is happening. Sort of closing your eyes won't deal with it. So thank you, Tara, because it's a very, very valuable thing. I wasn't aware actually of all these teen settings, and I think it's, again, another conversation that should be brought up and re-brought up every so often as your child gets older, as you take off different settings and let them have a bit more freedom. That's when you can reintroduce the chat again, even.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me, and thank you all for listening to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored with Caroline Stanbury. Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review. Thank you.